So hello, members of the Alternative Energy Committee, Michelle Leary, our amazing liaison to the town, and our esteemed guest, Ben Senega. We're very excited to have you and very excited to hear about Energy Sage. I want to apologize to everybody for the confusion. I think there's a new setting that may have been placed for security purposes on the town's Zoom call. And unfortunately, we got caught in the middle of that. But Michelle is going to speak with the town IT person tomorrow to try to get that off so that we can facilitate these virtual meetings in person. We're allowed to do virtual meetings in person because of Massachusetts legislation that said for purposes of town meetings and open meeting laws, we can hold them virtually. They do require roll call votes in the event we're going to do any votes. So why don't we start very quickly with the meeting minutes, which Debbie doesn't even have to be there to take great meeting minutes. Thank you, Debbie.
I just need a good recording.
Hopefully, which we had trouble with too. But hopefully everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes in advance. And I'll give everybody a moment to refresh themselves. And then when somebody's ready, I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 12th, 2022. And then a second, and we'll see if there are any changes. Do I have any changes or a motion to accept the meetings as presented? Debbie can't make the motion because she wasn't here, even though she took the meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Josh. Wow, it's like we're rusty or something. Okay, thank you, Josh. Do I have a second? Steve, you're on mute, so if you're seconding, we can't hear you. So Mike Schmidt, well, I'll make a second. How about that? I'll make a second to approve the meeting minutes. Okay, any discussion? All right, why don't we do a roll call vote? Maybe it's you and I, Josh. So Tanya Bodell, aye.
Josh Dunn, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Mike and Steve?
I wonder if they can even
Hello,
talk.
can you hear me?
Oh, they can, yeah.
Now
Hello?
we can. Yep.
Mike Schmidt, I don't, something's going on with this. I tried to unmute. I don't know if you could hear me or not, but
Okay. Well, we can hear you now, so hopefully you'll stay. And just, do we have a chat? I don't know whether we can. I don't see a chat.
yeah, I'm on
session.
the phone. I can't chat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you. And we're going to let Steve abstain, and the meetings have been approved. Perfect. And so we will post those. Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Thank God these weren't happening at the beginning of COVID and only at the end, because maybe even Zoom is tired of everything. Okay. So welcome and introductions, approval of the meeting minutes. Next is so sorry, Ben, I have Mike as the guest speaker from last time. I just carried it over, but I know, Ben, you're going to be talking on the exact same thing. I'm just going to turn it over to Ben and say, I had the pleasure of speaking with Ben and Mike about Energy Sage. Some of you may know Mike from the Mass CEC. He's now gone to Energy Sage. And this is a very interesting company and concept that is very consistent with the Go Electric program. It's also very timely given some of the deadlines that the credits for solar is facing. So it is, given our mission, it would be very important for us to try to promote solar for the town and for the residents and businesses as much as possible. And this may be a very easy way to do that. So I am going to turn it over to Ben, who is here for Mike from Energy Sage, or Mike was going to be there for Ben from Energy Sage last week, but Ben, we're glad to have you. And why don't you take it away?
Excellent. And I do still need screen sharing permissions, or I can send somebody my slides.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, so
That's okay.
screen sharing permission. Let me see. I'm going to,
So Tanya, if you just make him co-host, you can share a screen.
okay, perfect. You're now, I
Awesome.
think, co-host, Ben.
Appreciate that, and should be able to share. Let me know. Can everybody see this?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks so much for having me. Again, I'm Ben Soniga, Partnership Manager with Energy Sage. My background is in nonprofit work. I spent about the last 5 years working at Environment America, actually directing their solar energy and storage campaigns. Did a lot of working with local governments across the country in that as well. So I have a lot of background working in solar and in local government. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll try to keep this brief for the sake of time. Zooming all the way out on Energy Sage, I think it's worth saying that while we are a platform that helps people shop for solar and connects them with vetted installers, our mission is to empower people to make smarter energy choices and decisions across the board through simplicity, transparency, and choice. And those are core throughout. We're the highest traffic website for solar education across the country. We've helped over 700,000 people successfully shop for solar and now battery storage as well, valuing over $1 billion in systems. We've received grants from the Department of Energy, Mass AEC, NYSERDA, and were recently acquired by Schneider Electric. This is basically the idea of the platform, which I kind of alluded to, but we are a marketplace that helps connect customers with reputable contractors through a protected two-sided platform experience. So we are vendor neutral, which is very important, and we're connecting those vetted installers for rooftop solar and storage, as well as community solar. We're heading towards other technologies like heat pumps with customers through trusted advisors. And pause me if anybody has any questions as well throughout. This is, again, we're aiming to aid customers through the shopping journey through the entire process. That includes the sort of lengthy initial research process, which there we are. We are in 40 markets currently. This is obviously not as important for just Cohasset, Massachusetts, but worth noting that we serve this number of markets across the country, as well as 10 for community solar and growing, which is exciting. We partner with enormous range of organizations to help educate their energy customers, their audience, their readers, whoever it might be, from utilities to nonprofits to large corporates like Walgreens, in cases where we'll do employee programs, for example. Moving on to what Energy Sage looks like in the actual experience itself for customers and potential partners. We know that the customer journey can span years, sometimes even a decade. Somebody might even be thinking about solar before actually beginning their shopping journey. So that awareness period very early on is certainly something that we aim to be a part of in the interest of creating simplicity around solar shopping and shopping in clean energy. We do tons of consumer education, and we have a large amount of content, which I'll show a little bit of later. Then there's the actual solar research, the shopping, and then following up and making sure that their experience was good, and considering other smart technologies like heat pumps. So one tool that we have in that initial research and consideration phase that I think is super useful for local governments just trying to help people dig through the weeds and figure out if solar is actually even right for them is our solar calculator. This is, all of this is free to consumers, but this in particular doesn't require an email, anything like that. Is just a solar calculator where you can put in your address and an estimate of your utility bill. And through Google Project Sunroof, through Google Imaging, we're actually able to take a quick look at your property and estimate the suitability of it and what the estimated solar economics of that would be. So this allows you to determine if there's too much shading on your roof for solar, or if you're actually an exceptionally good candidate. Like maybe you have a very high electricity bill and you have a good south-facing roof. This gives you a good initial idea before even beginning the solar shopping process with Energy Sage. And lots of other local governments, both in Massachusetts and across the country, utilize this tool. A little bit on how we vet the installers. Like I mentioned, we are pretty focused on the customer experience. We don't ask for a phone number. We're really focused on the actual customer experience. And part of that is vetting the installers that are actually qualified to participate on our platform. So some of the things that we look for are listed here. At least 3 years of PV installing experience, of course, the correct license and insurance, NABCEP certified. We look at their reputation for customer service and quality installations through internet reviews, Better Business Bureau. We're looking at the type of equipment that they're quoting to make sure that folks are quoting the highest quality equipment. As well as we actually have an entire team that's managing this installer network, that before we bring on new installers to the platform, we interview the management to make sure that their, we say sales ethos is aligned with ours, meaning that they're not intending to push hard style tactics and bombard people with messages, which is, of course, would defeat the purpose of the platform. So that's a little bit more about how we vet the installers on our platform. Once you're ready, just takes a couple of minutes to sign up. Just specify your property location, a little bit about your energy uses, your system and financing preferences. Then we use those aerial images, send them to installers that are able to quote you online without actually coming to the property, as well as through standardized quote templates to get a very close a call to what the actual quote would be. And then you're able to do an apples to apples comparison and get multiple quotes from these vetted installers. Another really, really awesome piece that lots of folks like to take advantage of, that's all again free as part of Energy Sage, is that we assign a human to every person that comes on the platform to sign up for quotes. We have a dedicated energy advisor that is an expert in solar, in the financing options, the equipment, the incentives that are available to you, how to take advantage of those, how to compare all of your quotes apples to apples. And again, that person is a part of our team. So that's a third-party energy advisor that you can set up either a phone call with, speak with over email if you prefer that, even SMS, text chat is something that we're working on rolling out. So you have a dedicated energy advisor for each person. This is pretty cool. So the National Renewable Energy Lab, NREL, did a study on Energy Sage. It found that just through the competitive marketplace, the nature of competition, we're able to save on average about 20% on the cost of a solar installation by making sure that people are getting up to at least, we recommend getting at least 3 quotes, sometimes as much as 7 being the maximum, compared to the industry average, and then even a little bit more compared to some larger installers such as maybe Sunrun or SunPower, for example.
How much and if I could ask a question, how much have you seen prices go up over the last year or two?
It's a good question. Yeah, I can send you. So we track data only for our platform, and it's worth noting that Energy Sage is not the industry, or is not the market necessarily. We're still a small percentage of the total market. We noticed for the first time ever in this past year a slight uptick in the average price per watt. Certainly, we've heard a lot about supply chain constraints, and that is part of the equation. But comparatively, the economics of solar are still coming way down, and we anticipate them to continue down that trend. But good question. That did definitely tick up on our platform, and no doubt that trend is being experienced kind of across the industry, but very slight on our platform.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm a visual learner. This is what it looks like when you get quotes, stuff that I've already mentioned. But on the left there, you can see all the information that you would want about the quotes that you're getting. So comparing price per watt, payback periods, the amount of your needs that would be met, loan options, more about the equipment. And then right up there in the right-hand corner, you have, Sam, in this case, a dedicated energy advisor that you can set up a phone call chat with to talk through the different quotes that you received, what the differences and similarities might be, and decide on which is the best option for you. And just on the right-hand side, we have a summary of the installers, which I also think is a really useful tool, just in the nature of helping people make informed decisions. Beyond this, so beyond just shopping for solar and all that the platform has going for it, we are constantly writing objective, again, vendor neutral, tech agnostic, educational content, this whole videos and infographics, and the content portfolio, I say goes both wide and deep. We write about almost everything. I'm relatively new to Energy Sage. It's been a few months on, and I find myself going through this sometimes to look at different topics relating not just to solar, but electric vehicles or incentives or an emerging technology and clean tech. The chances are good that we've written about it, and we go pretty in depth.
Can I ask, are those articles and, those materials, are those available to like the town of Cohasset if we
Yes.
have a program with you, so we can just, grab those and put up those on our own website?
Yes, absolutely. So it's worth noting here, all of what I'm mentioning in terms of benefits, and I'll walk through some of the ways that other towns in Massachusetts and even across the country are utilizing our resources. These are all free. And the reason why that's free is because the installers pay to be a part of our platform. And so the reason it's, again, free for consumers, free to partner, is because we make our money from the installers. So to the extent that more people are finding their way to Energy Sage to shop and to actually get installations, it's worth our while to be creating this content and to be helping run solar campaigns for local governments, nonprofits, with in conjunction with all of these partners. So it's a good question. Kind of leads into the next thing that I'm going to say here. I will note as well, we're talking a lot about rooftop solar here. Community solar is something that we have launched a marketplace for. It works very similarly. Here's just a visual of what it looks like. You only put in your zip code, and you can compare apples to apples projects that are within your territory. Tanya, I know you had a question about this, and I checked back with our community solar team, and Cohasset is, you are able to subscribe to the projects that we looked at on Energy Sage. So that is an option for residents in Cohasset that either for one reason or another, whether they rent or perhaps there's too much shading on the roof, or there's just some reason or another why they don't want to go with rooftop, but they still want to support solar energy and enjoy the discount on their utility bill. This is a really good option to go.
Okay, and that's different than the community choice aggregation, right?
Yes.
This is a credit against the bill. And
Yes.
Whereas the community choice aggregation is a retail, physical versus financial.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which is why the community solar, as long as it's within the utility territory, you can subscribe. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. And we have lots of explainers too, because these things can get kind of opaque when it comes to, I'm getting savings, but there's two different bills now. And, understanding that we have some customer education to do in order to make this more in the spirit of all of what we're attempting to do at Energy Sage, boiling down to education. We have tons of good sort of plain language explainers about community solar.
Good.
Then can I ask you a question about the community aggregation versus, because I know I have third party supplier. And so I wouldn't be eligible for community aggregation myself. I'd have to. So what does this, is this considered like a third party supplier? If you have community solar, then can't be in the community aggregation program?
That I'm not sure of.
Okay.
I can get an answer to you on that. I might want to ask our community solar team. Yeah, why don't I just check with them just so I make
Okay.
sure that I tell you what's right.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing because I think this might be intriguing to people.
Mhm.
But, but once again, with community aggregation, it may change things. So,
Yeah, great. I will check in with our community solar team with the experts on that and see if that's the case. Great. I'll keep going unless there's other questions on community solar for now. Just wanted to speak a little bit on city partnerships. So one of the things that we can do, again, for free, all of this, is develop custom landing pages. So, to your point, Debbie, this, if you are pointing to Energy Sage on your website, that link would not just take them to Energy Sage, it would take them to a landing page that specifically says, Cohasset has partnered with Energy Sage to help you go solar. So they have a tailored experience. And on that page, we can give them a little bit more about other Cohasset initiatives, a little bit about some of the leadership in the town. Sometimes it'll be a bio of the mayor and their climate goals or whoever the appropriate person is. So that person is getting a sort of more tailored experience on Energy Sage that can help, build the awareness for whatever other, solar clean energy initiatives that you have going on. In a lot of cases, we've written customized content. Like I mentioned, we already have tons written. So there's a good chance if there's questions and you want them answered, we already have something that's plug and play. But in the case of some larger partners like Eversource, for example, we've developed sort of custom content. And that's something that we can do in the case where there's something specific that you think would be beneficial in helping get the word out about solar and about Energy Sage. We've helped other partners like National Grid win best practices, for customer engagement. All to say this is just a helpful tool and we aim to be helpful. This is sort of one last piece about the partnership, like I mentioned, because we are able to build a custom landing page that's tracking the web traffic from your website, whether that's through a regular newsletter that you're sending with linkage, links on the website with FAQs, QR codes that people are scanning at the local farmer's market, whatever it might be. We add a tracking code to that, which then your team, whoever you deem the right person to take point on this, would have access to a performance dashboard that looks like this. So you can track the number of people that are registering through that link, how many of them are approved for quotes, how many of them are actually going solar, who those people are. And then over time, you can track the success of your campaign in terms of cars off the road or avoided carbon emissions, which I think is a really cool way to sort of boast about the success of your initiatives. And it also gives you a really good picture into the interest and the level of interest in solar prior to interconnection, which in a lot of cases cities only have an idea once people have actually interconnected. So it helps you get a better picture in that upper funnel. Again, I mentioned I'm a visual learner, so this is just the sort of whole picture of where we aim to be useful and where Energy Sage can lend expertise to optimize programming and make sure that the customer experience and that of the city is a good one through customer research phase, through educational content, interactive tools, actually supporting people through that comparative shopping, and then helping design programs and implement them, aiming to take work off the plate of your town to help you achieve these goals without having to invest too much, and then also helping optimize that program through the data that we track. This is again just sort of summarizing things. Kind of touched on all of these points. And yeah, just a little bit, just wanted to give a nod. If you wanted to check out our reviews online, we have lots of them, hundreds of them, and are pretty proud of our customer reviews. And that's all. So I will stop there. Pause for questions.
I know that Steve is, Steve, it looks like you might be able to speak. Your mute button is off. But maybe not. Does anybody have questions that haven't been already asked?
I
Yes,
think,
go ahead, Josh.
oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think it's great. And it's like an Expedia for solar. And, I've gotten some quotes, and there has been quite a bit of variation between the quotes that I've gotten. So I'm definitely gonna check this out.
Yeah, through Energy Sage or just doing your own
No,
research?
just, yeah, not through Energy Sage, but I will. I
Yeah.
haven't moved forward yet, so I definitely will check it out. So thank you.
Yeah, one other thing is if you're getting external quotes, which we also encourage people to do, you can send those quotes to your Energy Sage advisor once you sign up, and do, I think like Best Buy does this too or something, but you can ask the installers to beat it or to match it if you want to do something like that. But they can also just help talk you through those quotes that you got externally.
So Ben, what would be the pros and cons of having a Cohasset specific site versus just sending people to Energy Sage?
The cons would be missing out on being able to track the success of the program and that data. The pros being that you would be able to. We can, of course, share all of those, informational content bits. We can make recommendations for your website for how to and where to point to our resources, without a formal partnership. That's fine. But given that it's turnkey, we can basically create that landing page in an afternoon and have it launched for you. There's not a lot of reasons not to, if you plan on pointing people to Energy Sage. So I would say the other part too is with the custom landing page. I think it builds in trust factor. People go to the town or go to Cohasset because they think that you're the specialist or the town is the one who would have the answers for how to go solar. And pointing to us as a resource and giving them a co-branded experience makes them feel safe that they're with a third-party advisor that is trusted by the town.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as far as the pretty pictures, I noticed some of the web pages of towns are very personalized and others are generic. What's the difference? Like how do you get one or the
other? Preference. Yeah. Again, it's the level of involvement for your town is up to you. If you want to build in more custom content and have the landing page be more customized, that requires me asking you for a bio and some pictures that we can piece into a site. And so, the level of engagement is almost entirely up to you, but is always part of the package that we offer.
Good. I have some questions from Steve. Even though his red phone, his phone is not red and crossed out, he's still having trouble speaking. So his question is, how does Energy Sage relate to Mass Save?
We're separate. I think historically there's been some partnership with Mass Save, but we're an independent company. We've worked with them in certain instances. But yeah, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions while I wait for Steve's ... to turn into something?
So I guess since we're waiting, so basically, let's say, you were designing, a custom landing page for us, and then, some, I don't know, some other materials or whatever. I mean, do you kind of assign somebody to work with the town and give them, so how many ways are you split?
Well, that number is ever growing and changing. But I would be your point person, and any and all questions I'm able to help with. We also do have an enormous team of folks who all specialize in the individual components of both, solar itself, like the team of energy advisors, as well as community solar. We have a team that manage. So, where the constraints on my time and those are extended to the rest of the Energy Sage family. So while I would be the point person and would handle most of the management with you, the full force
So
of
is
my
there
team is
any
behind it.
flexibility for the town to control, to have editing privileges for the landing page, or is it all done through you?
Well, we create the landing page, but we can also help and make recommendations. So you can recommend edits to the landing page that is co-branded with your logo and information. We have some template language for what that might look like to sort of guide it, but of course that how you describe the partnership is completely up to you. And then as well, on the end of actually being on the Cohasset website, we have a content specialist, team of content specialists that can take a look at your website and make recommendations for where it might be good to house certain FAQs, or where it might be good to point to Energy Sage within your website. But again, all completely up to you. It's your website, it's your co-branded landing page that people are coming to on our site. So we have template language and template versions of this that we know work, but that is at the end of the day up to you.
So Steve has a clarifying question from his prior question, which is Energy Sage a mass save contractor?
I don't believe so, if I'm understanding that correctly. To be honest, I'm not fully clear on the scope of mass save. My understanding is that they're mostly doing energy efficiency work, but I might need somebody on this call to keep me up to speed with mass save.
Yep.
But
if you could just check and see, I think
It's
just
contractor,
gives...
right? I mean, Energy
So,
Sage
right.
just connects people.
Yeah,
It's not a
right.
contractor.
We're not. We aren't a contractor, exactly. So that's actually it's a good point, Josh. That's a good clarifier.
That's the question. And so Steve said, I tried Google Sunroof a month ago to get aggregate statistics for Cohasset, but it had not been updated in years. So do you use Google Sunroof as the engine for your tool that identifies how much solar you could put on your roof, whether you're a good candidate or not good candidate?
So we do use Google Project Sunroof. Not for aggregate data, just for the individual. You put in your average electricity bill, and then it takes a look at your home to identify, if there's shading or not, and the direction of the roof to give you a basic estimate. You have to put in a little bit more info to actually get quotes. I would assume that data is a little bit more up to speed, but I can see the aggregate data being a little bit outdated.
Okay. One last question, because we're at 8:30, which is half an hour from when you started, Ben. So you're right on time, but we're not. One last question? Okay, so Ben, you're allowed to stick around. This is a public meeting, and I think we're going to discuss, our thoughts on this and what we want to do with respect to the town. So most certainly, if you want to stick around and a question might come up, or if you don't like being talked about in front of your face, you can hop off. But we invite you to stay for the whole thing, or just for the for the next section. So feel free to
Cool.
stay, feel free to drop off. But I'm going to open this up for discussion for the members of the committee on what we think and what we want to do about Energy Sage.
I just want to say I'm all in.
I knew you would love it, Debbie. I knew it. I thought this is what Debbie was looking for on Go Electric.
You know, I mean, it's the fact that it's unbiased, the fact that, you know, you get somebody to work with you, the fact that you can match apples and apples. So like, you know, that like Josh was having to do is pulling all these disparate quotes together and not sure you're ever, and the fact they're vetted. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, you know, that you're staking a reputation on vetting these people. And so anyway, I think you're doing the heavy lifting, and I think I'm just 100% in. So
Yeah, me too.
Josh, you
I
are
just-
too.
Yeah, I think it's a complex kind of market. There's a lot of different products, you know, different efficiencies. You got battery, you start throwing in batteries and it takes it to a whole nother level. And, you know, you're asking somebody to go drill some holes in your roof and just hope that things work out. So yeah, giving somebody this kind of security blanket of knowing, number one, I guess that you're getting a fair price, but number two, that it's a vetted contractor that's going to be doing it. I think, yeah, definitely valuable.
I also think this is a great opportunity. The Trump tariffs have been waived thanks to Biden. So that should decrease the cost of solar. We're still in a 26% investment tax credit period, which ratchets down to 22% in 2023 and 0% in 2024. So we have a window of opportunity around 18 months or less that we should really encourage the town and the residents to take advantage of solar while it is cost effective. With interest rates going up, it becomes more expensive because it is capital intensive and the financing costs become more expensive. But I think there's some pretty aggressive financing options and they tend to be subsidized in some instances. So I think if Steve and Mike can talk or contribute, we'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, let me give them an opportunity to say something or text something, and then we can talk about next steps.
This is Mike. Yeah, I think this would be a good thing to promote on the social media thing we were talking about last meeting, Instagram, Facebook. I think this is right up that alley.
And then I guess the question is, do we do it as a Cohasset specific webpage? Do we want to recommend we do a Cohasset specific webpage? Because we have to get permission from the select board to buy in on this.
So
Yeah, I'm not sure of those specifics.
Okay.
This is the best way to go about it.
Well, I mean, this is one of those things sort of, I mean, if we feel like it's above our pay grade, we can take it to the select board, explain what the options are and let them decide. And there may be some legal issues that we don't know about.
I mean, I think, you know, to Ben's point, it is an extra layer of just kind of comfort that, you know, this is something that we've looked into and, you know, just sending them to a website and, you know, they have to figure it out on their own, kind of just feels a little bit more comfortable and vetted.
I definitely think it should be a Cohasset only website, or if we did a Go Electric project with a couple of other towns, whether, you know, the towns that wanted to would also join in. But I think having Cohasset's, you know, town seal on it and stuff like that, it's going to carry a huge amount of weight. So for right now, I think it should definitely be that.
So let's, I think I'd like to hear, it sounds like we are in agreement that we should recommend this as a program for Cohasset to the select board. And as an action item from Michelle, maybe Michelle can talk to Chris about how Chris feels about it and discuss it with council on what some of the implications are. But subject to no showstoppers, I would entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the select board that Cohasset teams up with Energy Sage to promote a facilitated way for residents in the town to look at solar energy options.
Just a quick question. I didn't see the presentation. How many towns have done this? Have the names of the towns that have done this?
Yeah, I can pull up a list and send it perhaps to Tanya afterwards in the notes as far as the full picture across the country. Massachusetts, I think we have 5 or 6 other active towns. Many we've done sort of like time capped campaigns with in the past, where they'll want to do like a strong push around solar for 6 months and then they're dormant now. But yeah, I can send you a list of the most recent, more active partnerships, but 5 or 6 other in the Boston metro area right now.
You can, Ben,
Yeah, I
you
think
did
that-
send me that, so I'll include that in the meeting minute notes. If you could also send us the presentation, is that possible?
Definitely. Yeah.
So I'll
I can-
send us a presentation. We'll put it in the meeting minute notes, and then we'll probably just, because the select board's getting very tight on the real estate on their agenda, we will, and they are looking for the committees to make these decisions and make recommendations to them, full stop. What we'd like to do is maybe take 1 or 2 of your slides. We can ask permission when we decide which ones those are to present and explain why we think that this would be a good partnership. I'm thinking maybe 3 slides that we can put together for them. So if again, we have I'd entertain a motion that we, as an alternative energy committee, recommend to the select board that the town of Cohasset work with Energy Sage to facilitate access to solar energy options for the town and its residents and businesses. And this is where if somebody doesn't want to repeat it, they can say so moved.
Is there a cost to the town?
Is there a cost to the town, Ben?
No cost to the town.
No cost to the town. Are you about to say so moved, Mike?
I will.
Thank you, Debbie. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. All right, we will need to do a roll call vote. Oh, Steve, I don't know if your vote's going to be able to count if I'm speaking for you. I really wish you could get off of mute, but we have enough for a quorum for the vote. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Josh Dutton, aye.
Mike Schmidt, aye.
Okay, and I'll just for the record note, even though it's not included in the vote, that Steve Wenner has a thumbs up on my text. Okay, so this is great. So again, I think the action items are for the Alternative Energy Committee to give a brief overview to the select board. They've already been prepped on this, that we were going to have this meeting and what it was about. We would make the recommendation before we make that recommendation, because we know that the question is going to be, is this even legal? We will have Michelle have town council review. And there's an MOU, Ben, that you sent us. So we'll send them the MOU and just make sure that legally and from a municipal law point of view, there's no problem. But since you're already working with 5 active communities and had 5 others, we may want to go forward with references as well, just to make sure. So if you could, when you give us that list again, if you could give us some contacts that you're working with, so we can just talk to them about how it's working for them, and that'll give us some information as well. And Debbie, would you like to be the one who takes the lead on following up with those towns
Sure.
to get a feel for, how it's working for them, pros and cons?
Yep.
Okay, that'd be great. So those are your referrals, Ben, and we're going to send the MOU. In fact, I already forwarded it, but I'll follow up to make sure that council is reviewing it. And then I think we'll have the information we need to answer questions that the select board might have. And if we don't, we will come back to you and perhaps, but there's no promises, let you come before them and give some FaceTime. Okay. Very good. I will say, Ben, this is exciting, and both the solar energy array and the community solar are two things that are continuously on our list. And so you have just solved two of our agenda items. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for letting me present tonight. It was great meeting you all.
Absolutely. Again, sorry for the upfront snafus. So,
No worries.
okay, very good. Next is sustainability and climate action plans. Just for purposes of time, I'm going to give just a quick update about what Hingham is doing, and maybe the next time around we can share some of the materials that were prepared for Hingham, which talks about what other towns are doing, what their climate action plans look like. Last night, Hingham had its first public meeting related to their climate action plan. There are 3 scheduled as part of the public community engagement outreach plan. And the first public meeting was purposely designed to really emphasize community groups. So there are a lot of community groups in the region, on the South Shore and in Hingham. And Net Zero, Hingham Net Zero is one, 350, sustainability, South Shore sustainability. Steve knows these, and I know I'm massacring these names, but there are tons of community groups. So there was specific, Hingham Drives Electric and these are all individual citizen groups that are promoting different aspects of decarbonization and going clean and green. So those groups were highlighted as part of the public meeting. There were breakout sessions in the categories of transportation, electricity, buildings, and waste to brainstorm what different approaches would be for Hingham to get to net zero, and discussions about concerns that people had. Those were then reported out to the main group altogether, and that list is being compiled as to approaches that Hingham can take in those 4 categories to get to net zero. And in going through that list, the CAPC, the Climate Action Planning Committee, is going to prioritize, I'm sorry, that's my dog, is going to prioritize which approaches are most feasible from a technological, political, and Hingham specific, socially acceptable, feasible metric, and they will pick a few for cost benefit analysis. How much is it going to cost and what are the benefits, to then make a decision on how those can be incorporated into the climate action plan. So they are moving along. They're now 4 months into their very focused climate action planning committee meetings, and a draft is due in December. And an outline of what's going to be included is due in September. So Hingham is very much moving forward, and I think it's very interesting to see what they're doing and how that might be applicable to Cohasset. Any questions before we go to the updates on initiatives? Okay. Update on initiatives. So these are pretty much all me. Quickly on the electric school bus demonstration project, if you recall, because we've discussed this in the past, NLX was able to get Mass CEC grant money to offer an electric school bus demonstration project. The original intent of that demonstration project was to look at how a third party can manage the charging times of a school bus in order to provide vehicle to grid services. And those vehicle to grid services don't have to be active ancillary services. They include capacity, for example, peak shaving. And NLX does that. They acquired Internoc, which was very much into the demand response resources. So that was the grant and the demonstration project. We went before the school committee last week, Wednesday. We went before before the select board on Tuesday. I went before the select board on Tuesday to describe this. The select board seemed positive, but it was premature to take a vote to support it. On Wednesday, NLX presented to the school committee what the details would be and what the aim and targeted pricing was. and the school committee did not take a vote to proceed because they can't, because we have to do procurement. We have to follow municipal procurement. But the school committee did take a vote of whether or not they supported the demonstration project with a unanimous support for going forward with the electric school bus demonstration project, subject to procurement requirements and pricing details to be determined at a future point. I understand we're back on the agenda. NLX may be back on the agenda. I think we have to decide if NLX is going to present. That might be helpful if they have like 2 slides, just talk about the demonstration project so the select board then can vote whether or not they support the demonstration project. And once the select board makes that decision, if they vote to support it, which I suspect they will, Michelle can then go out and do procurement and obtain 3 bids for these specific services that NLX is proposing to do as part of the demonstration project. And then once we receive pricing, the best option can be chosen. And it's a small enough issue that Michelle, with our advice can do that. So if there's anybody on this committee who'd like to be a part of that procurement process, please let me know. I think Mike, you had some interest at one point, but I do feel very comforted that things are moving ahead, and Cohasset may have an electric school bus in September 2023, which is very exciting. But I will tell you, these things do not just happen on their own. This has been a long road to drive, but we are pulling into the station, and that's good because the grant money was about to run out. So that's a school bus demonstration project. Any questions on that? Okay, I will include the presentation slides that we gave to the select board. Debbie, I'll send those to you, or I can cut and paste them into the draft minutes just so people can see those. I think I circulated them. Solar energy RFP, there's continues to be discussions about third-party sites. And again, it behooves us to take as much of that as possible, given the ratcheting down of the ITC and the increasing interest rates. Lock and load while we can. But we're trying to get attention that is getting turned elsewhere. So we're going to just keep honing in on that. And then the Cohasset microgrid project and brick grant, we have not heard anything further on that, but an expected decision on whether or not we move to the next step, meaning that whether or not we qualified to be considered for the brick grant will come out in July, I believe. Any questions on the microgrid and the brick grant? All right, Josh, do you have an update for us on your efforts to collect data and or any data to report?
Sure. Do you want me? Yeah, so I'm not, I haven't been sat through, I don't think. Let me share my screen. Oh,
Do I have to give it you options?
yeah, I guess so. I mean, do you want
There
me
you
to
go.
share the yeah, okay.
Woo!
Charge point. This is what-
Holy moly.
This is what we're looking at, right? So, and you can see, I just, saw this in May. I mean, there's 86 unique drivers, I guess, that used it, which just seems the highest recently. So in May, it was the highest amount of sessions. So a lot of people definitely taking advantage of it. And what else you guys want to see here? I mean, so 5 megawatt hours. And there's that spreadsheet. I don't know, what I'm supposed to be doing with that actually.
Which spreadsheet?
Oh, it's just like I was supposed to put the this is for the landfill. Just May, what the landfill is able to do. I don't know if you guys want to, do you guys talk about this or go through this, but April was definitely, from a production standpoint, been the highest it's been since June of last year. So it was a good month for production at the old dump. $8,000 benefit to the town for April. So yeah, what other specifically do you guys want to talk about, or I guess highlight when we go through this?
I think
Yeah,
this is some
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
data that added to the social media. I don't know if it's monthly or quarterly. Definitely the solar, and then the car charging stations. I mean, just another thing to kind of post every quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the other thing we probably need to discuss is kind of where we are on the social media, if that's something we are going to move forward with. I don't think we ever officially did a vote.
You know what? We need Corey on the call because he seemed to be getting some pushback about
Oh.
what we were allowed to do or not do. So let's defer
Okay.
that. But I
Alright.
think that is a topic we should discuss.
Okay.
Now, that said, we can post on our website. We can send this to IT, whatever we think should be done. I think the solar data, we should make some pretty charts just to make it easier to see what's happening as far as the cumulative savings, and then also the monthly, right? Because it's helpful for
dump.
other people who are
Yeah.
trying to decide how much solar they're going to expect to get from their house to know what the patterns are.
Yeah, I mean, I have so I work for an analytics company, so I have software that I could pull the spreadsheet into and make some charts that we could use.
Can you just do it in Excel? And then that way, if
I'd probably be fired from my job if I did.
just did it in Excel.
Yeah, Excel it's a bad word at my company, but no, I'm just kidding. But
Oh, I got
yeah, I
it.
mean, you could. I mean, yeah, I mean, Excel is not an analytics tool. I mean, it's a spreadsheet, but yeah, I mean, we could do whatever. I can create things to post.
Just, I only say that to keep it easy for, if you get tired of doing this and want to pass it on to somebody else.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's easy to do that. Yeah, that's not that hard.
Okay.
Visualize it.
Okay. So let me ask, on the discussion around these charging stations, we have already decided, and we've already talked to the select board about the fact that there's a lot of users who are not paying anything. And this is now costing the town $500 to $600 a month, which adds up, but that's like $6,000 to $7,000 a year. And I think we as a committee felt it was time to start charging. One thought is that, these charging stations have maintenance costs associated with them. They go down, as Debbie pointed out. One thought would be to consider whether or not it would make sense to establish an enterprise fund as a starting point for the charging station money coming in. And then the charging station money can be used for alternative energy or clean energy investments. Enterprise funds are used by the town when there's sort of a money coming in, money going out on the same topic. And they do that so that the money coming in doesn't get lost in the budget. And the money going out can be voted off the island. So a couple of people outside of this committee have come to me and suggested that we are so active and we are bringing in so much money that instead of having that just go to the bottom line, we should think about whether or not we want to propose to the town that they establish an alternative energy or clean energy fund, enterprise fund, to collect the money coming in and use that to then make expenditures. or vice versa, to make expenditures and then collect the money coming in from grants as a reimbursement grant program. For example, the BRIC grant. What do people think about that?
I'd like to see, obviously the costs of the chargers covered, any energy that the town is paying for covered, and then, almost keep it as a wash. And, you have people that have used it for a year and a half, 2 years, are used to using it, are, giving businesses to the local stores, coming to the downtown area. I never thought of big government and money grab and taking more than we need. We have something good. I'd like to see it supported and paid for so that other people aren't paying for it, and then just kind of, paying for itself. That's my thoughts on it.
I agree.
So there's two pieces there. And Josh, I want to understand what you agree with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
The first is that we should charge for the electricity charging at a price that covers the cost. The cost of not just the electricity, but if there's maintenance costs or managing it or whatever, but to cover the costs that are associated with allowing the convenience of charging. And then the second is having some mechanism, and I proposed an enterprise fund, and there's a limited number of mechanisms, but there's like others, but a mechanism by which the money comes in and then is used to pay out. So do you agree with both of those, Josh?
I mean, the second part's a little bit, just because if the town is paying for it, I mean, the citizens are paying for the energy that people are using. If we're getting paid for that and we're not giving the money back to the citizens that are paid for it initially, and we're giving it to some other place, it might be, somewhat problematic. I don't know, trying to explain it to somebody,
Right. So I think the issue is that there's no, as part of the general budget, if we were to set up a program where money was coming in through the charging stations, there's no guarantee that that would be being used to pay the electricity bill.
Right.
Like
But
a third of it could go to the town and 2/3 could go to the schools because of the way that the budgeting and the allocation works.
Right.
So under the current budget process, the generic municipal budgeting process, money coming in is just revenue. It doesn't link to anything. Unless you set up an enterprise fund like the water plant or the sewer plant, or a revolving fund like special education or the rec department is a revolving fund. So in the case of the special education department at the schools and the recreational fund, they have programs that generate revenue, but those programs generate costs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the revolving fund does is it ties the two together, and whatever's left over on a net basis drops, either moves forward or can be sent back to the town.
Yeah, I guess if we're charging what it costs, though, how is there, if we're just charging what the energy costs and just giving people energy at cost, how do we make money on that? Or how do we?
So the issue is in the standard town budgeting, revenue coming in is revenue coming in. And there's different things that are taken out of that before you get to, the schools get some of the money, other obligations get other money, the town staff gets money. So there's no direct link between money coming in and money going out. And so it may be that money coming in from the charging stations, only a third of it stays with the town who's paying for the electricity. That's what I'm saying. And the other 2/3 could go to the schools. So the only way you can create a link to make sure you are covering the costs is by setting up one of these mechanisms. where the costs and the revenues are captured in the same function.
Right. I mean,
So could you,
I think for something like that, it's very appropriate. Because otherwise, as you said, it'll get swept into the general fund and out of our control. And, any money, any revenues that come in, if they're not earmarked, they go straight to the general fund.
Mhm.
So these funds are set up all around town. And then, if we had a fund like that and there was a different revenue source down the road, we could evaluate that and ask that to also be swept into it. But we could make it very simple and just start with, just having this as a fund for managing the charging stations. And then, I mean, I don't see grants or anything ever going through something like that. I don't even think it would be allowed. But a revenue generator, I think, fees and things like that can be allocated to these funds. So that's what I think. We should just start with that and then reserve the right if we find other ways of generating revenue that we see if we could amend it to add them into the reserve fund. They're called reserve funds.
Well, that's a third mechanism, actually. So reserve funds, revolvers, and enterprise funds are different, I believe. And let me give you an example. Enterprise funds can raise debt. So for example, if we got a reimbursement grant that gave us 75% of whatever we spent and gave it back to us, and I'll just use brick as an example. If we got the brick grant and the select board wanted us to move forward with that, somebody would have to front $36 million. All of it would come back in some form or another. 75% of that would come back from the federal government, from the brick grant. The other 25% would be recovered over time from sales into the marketplace or some type of lease payback with an outside manager who manages the assets and has a profit sharing. So there's, that's probably the most complicated issue we're thinking about right now. And I don't want to jump the gun because we don't even know if we've made it to the next level. But I guess my point is an enterprise fund allows for raising debt. And it is secured by revenues that are going to come back into that enterprise fund. A revolver, like the rec department, does not raise funds. They don't raise debt. They, if they have working capital, it's seeded by the town and then paid back to the town after they've collected the money. But it's basically they get their working capital and then they have the programs that bring in revenue. And then, so these different mechanisms are different. But we might want to be thinking bigger picture on things and what kind of mechanism would be helpful for the town. Community solar, like the solar, for example, the solar credits right now, they just go straight to whatever accounts are allocated those credits, which tends to be the schools from the landfill. But if we are able to go and get more solar for the sewer department, the water department, other parts of the town, is that something that would go through one of these types of funds, or do we just let those credits keep going, just apply against the electricity bills, which is how they're set up to work? So
Yeah, I don't think one of those funds, one size doesn't fit all. I think what we're talking about for this is a reserve fund, which is we collect the money, we manage it, we take care of the chargers, and just if that's the way you want it, to deal with it, or another. And that's what a lot of, different committees I've been on have in the Conservation Commission, we had a reserve fund. And so the money that people paid for, the hearings and things came into us. We didn't get to keep all of it, but we got to keep like 25,000. Then we could use that for hiring consultants and doing the different things like that. that to me is where we might want to start. I think going, for the big gun right now may be, I think when it presents itself, then we should think about that. But right now it seems logical to, to say, I think the selectmen should start charging and set up reserve fund and let us, be the ones, the recipients, and we manage it. And, or if you wanted to handle it like that, I don't know. But I think we also should have some funds that we could expend if we wanted to hire a consultant or something like that. That's what conservation, all of them have.
So I think let's do an action item. I don't think we're at a point where we could vote one way or the other, but why don't we do an action item, Debbie, where is somebody interested in exploring what the different options are and what's the right way to set this up?
I mean, do we even have the power as this committee to run something like that? I mean, I know.
No, right now we
Recreation
don't.
Commission-
We don't. And in fact, we're not operational at all. So
Yeah.
in order for us to have a reserve fund that we have access to, that we manage, we would have to completely change the charter of the Alternative Energy Committee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the point is there's a recognition that we are so good at what we do that it's snowballing. And I've gotten a couple of people in government, in the town government, who are well placed to understand how town governments work. That their point is, Tanya, your committee is doing such an amazing job and you're coming up with projects that pay for themselves. But what's happening is the money that's paying for it is getting lost in the general funds. And it might be time to look at whether or not there's a different structure for the operations of these opportunities that your committee is bringing to the table. So we're not an operations committee. We're an advisory committee. So your point's well taken, Mike. We are an advisory committee. That's all we're set up to do. But their point is you're doing such a good job on advising and basically originating deals. We're originating money-making opportunities for the town, whether it's through cost savings or grants or potentially market sales of some of the assets that we're looking at getting through grants, that there's origination, which is what this committee does. But once you start originating as much as we've been originating, there has to be some type of management of the operations. So I think that's what we're talking about. It's just, does somebody want to take the lead on this and explore how we should be thinking about this? Because I think there are some players who are going to be expecting us to make a recommendation, or we will be asked to make a recommendation or consider what do we do with all these origination projects, all these projects that we're originating. Just let it go to the general fund, or is there a better way to do it? And the perfect example, which is very easy for everybody to get their arms around, is the charging stations.
Mhm.
Tanya, I nominate you. I just don't have enough experience in town politics to know the ins and outs. Sounds like you know your way around.
All right, well, I think we need to put you on the advisory committee, Mike, so that you can have 6 years of dealing with this type of discussion. Okay, so why don't we do this? I will commit to taking the initial steps on exploring this. And I have put in some suggestions about potential additions to our committee that might have, minds to be able to address this, because I've gotten from more than one place, from very important committees in town, people who are saying, you guys are in a money machine and you're grabbing the money as fast as you can, and it's just going into the general fund. It may be time to start thinking about whether or not there's an operational structure that can be more efficient and effective than just letting it fall to the bottom line or go to wherever it goes. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I'll take the lead on some initial steps on that, at least to understand what the different options are. With Michelle and Chris and town council, and unfortunately Don Platt has left because he'd be the perfect liaison for this. But I'll take the lead on that. So Debbie, action item for me.
Yeah,
And once we understand more, I think we as a committee can make a recommendation. And maybe it starts with the charging stations, or maybe it's we realize there's a bigger structure that we should just move forward with. You know, in 10 years, maybe it's a municipal light company, who knows? But the point is, we're doing so much at this point that it's, and not a distribution municipal light company, Mike, but a generation and solar and battery asset muni. I just don't know how effective we're going to be. I mean, or if we're going to be able to keep it at this pace. We may cap out. Or the money might go away. Or the money might come in droves as part of a recession recovery plan. But I think we should be ready. Okay, action item for me. Thanks, Mike, for that. Okay, anything else on the data report or this action item? Oh, so matters not reasonably known in advance.
well, I have two things.
Okay,
Okay, one is, I'm sure Steve is dying to talk because we actually had a meeting of the 6 towns for the electrical aggregation. And there's quite a bit of things happening. And Steve, wish he could report on it, but basically, more people from Good Energy were there that on this call, on this Zoom call that I set up than even the towns. But the upshot is that they've been asked to do a little bit more on this compliance report that just keeps going on and on. There's this big, delay. There's some legal things going on. We decided that the 6 towns were gonna hang tight and see what happens in a month. We're gonna meet in a month and see whether it's time to take action about this. Meanwhile, 350.org contacted Steve, or Steve learned that they independently have also learned about all these electrical aggregation problems, and they were going to take action. So I think pressure is starting to mount. And but it was so ironic that we heard from the state a day before we were to meet. It was completely coincidental, but it was basically, with these new requests and a lot more, asking a lot more of the towns. It seems it's very apparent the state does not want electrical aggregation. Somebody's there, and there is something afoot. Everybody says it, knows it, and are beginning to really agitate about it. So that's on that part. On the Go Electric, was there anything anybody wanted to? I wish Steve could talk, because I'm sure he has a million things to say. On the Go Electric project, I have gotten together. I'm going to meet with Brianna next Thursday. We sort of connected. I know, I got in touch with her to ask about, there was something I was supposed to ask her, and we decided to connect on that. And she said, they're really looking to have this electrify Hingham, and she thought that would be so logical to plug into the Go Electric project. And of course, she had done a lot of work on her website, knew a lot about it. And I had said I had spoken to you, Tanya, about moving the everything over and maybe just starting with Hingham and Cohasset. So I hope you don't mind. We're just having a discussion. we're going to just see, about with the Hingham Light Plant, they have some funding. They're very interested in this, and we're going to just see if we can take some of the things we've done on that website and everything else and come together. So are there any things, anything you want to instruct me to do or say or anything when I meet with her? I will not make any commitments. We're just going to come up with, some ideas and strategies.
So are you doing this in your role as a member of the committee, or are you doing this where we're still tasked with exploring ideas, or are you doing this in your
I'm
capacity?
doing this exploring with ideas,
Okay.
that hat, it all seems very superficial to me, but no, it was the Go Electric project and I'm not going to be speaking for the town or the AEC
Yep.
or anything.
Look,
Yeah.
explore away. I will point out there's a critical difference that Mike will appreciate. A critical difference between Hingham and us, and that is that Hingham has their own municipal lighting plant. So as a result, they're already going 100% renewable. And that means that anybody who buys electricity from Hingham Municipal Lighting Plant is buying 100% renewable, clean energy, not renewable, but clean energy. So they are overbuying RECs and then reselling them into the marketplace. And they're getting the RECs through physical contracts and they're getting them through financial contracts. So that is a key difference between Cohasset right now and Hingham. Because
except just to remind, the Go Electric project is to incentivize people to go electric in their homes. So I feel that they're very compatible no matter what your source of energy is. It's really to incentivize you to, get rid of fossil fuels and replace them with electric through vendors and things like that, through education and incentives. So that's the whole point. Yeah.
No, I know, but I guess if you think about the Hingham Municipal Lighting Plant, it's basically a specialized enterprise fund. Right. They collect money, and that allows them to create the incentives to sell more energy, to collect more money, to create the incentives to sell more energy, to collect more money, they are bringing the money in and they're putting the money out for those.
When you're talking about incentives they might give, because when I had structured this was external, external vendors and things like that, because of course all the other towns were, we're all national grid or whatever. So anyway, but we're going to talk to see if there's anything we can salvage from the website and kind of, how to handle this. So.
Go for it. I think that's great. And I have no guidance. Sorry, that's my dog, but I trust you. But you've been working with this very much.
Well, believe me, Brianna knows all this too. It's not like talking to somebody who hasn't sat in on all those meetings and known all the gyrations, right?
Right. Nope. I think that's good. That's good. And I'm glad the Go Electric is back in business, because I think that's something that we're starting to get more and more leads on and more ability to execute on. Right. Whether we call it Go Electric or call it Energy Sage or call it whatever else we're going to call these things. Right. And speaking of that, and this is a matter not reasonably known in advance, today I drafted and sent to Michelle for her review a proposal for Mass CEC. Mass CEC indicated to us and a number of other towns that they have money available for grants following up on the Massachusetts CLEAR grant studies. If you recall, we did two grants. We had two grants for totaling $150,000 to look at two different microgrid sites, one at the DPW station, one at the police, fire, and Harborview. And Mass CEC indicated to the towns that had done those study grants that they had follow-up money if there were any little projects that we wanted to do. And it's like $15,000 to $20,000 or so was what they thought they could hand out to the towns that had done those studies. And so we had a conversation with them and talked through what might be the types of projects they'd be looking for that they would think would be in touch with that, the objectives of that money. And we are submitting a proposal to Mass CEC asking for $20,000 to $30,000 to put residential battery storage at Harborview. So Harborview is right behind the police fire station. It's 64 units for elderly and people with disabilities, and they don't have any backup generation. So when there's an outage in the middle of the winter, or most vulnerable, are cold, without light, without power, without communication. There is a leased backup generator, but they only can call on it like 5 times a year. So they only call on it during the middle of the winter, during the extreme storms. And a lot of times they don't call on it at all. So we've, I made some phone calls and received some indications that there would be an openness by CPC, and this was from Russ Benetti, that they would do a match, and the Cohasset Affordable Housing Trust, the Affordable Housing Trust, Steve Gallmer is the chair, that they have $10,000 left over from when Ham in his movie Fletch 2 came into town. The movie had donated some money to the Affordable Housing Trust to be put to good use. And they thought that this could be a good use. So the proposal has been sent to Michelle for her review, and Mass CEC asked that we submit it by tomorrow. And if they like the project, then they would give us money. And then over the course of the year, we might be able to match it or not match it, but it would be money that we would be able to use to do some backup residential battery storage for Harborview.
Cool.
But I want to, again, the work that we're doing, this is an example of money coming in and then money going out for the benefit of people in the town. And that's our charge. So we're definitely getting a good reputation in the world of people who have grant money, that if they have grant money and they want a cool project, come to Cohasset. We'll figure something out. It's a money machine. Throw it on the ground and we'll scoop it up. So anyway, I think it's a great project. I've looked at Harborview and I have been appalled that we let them stay in the dark. The other thing is on that one too, I talked to Russ Bennett when I was talking to Russ about this. Harborview received money at the town meeting to replace their roofs. So they're going to have brand new roofs. And if somebody has brand new roofs in town, what do we first think of on this committee?
Solar.
Solar.
Yeah. Sadly, though, they are really in the shade. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. So we'll have to take a look at it. It might not work, but at least they can have batteries to feed the common areas in the duplex. So at least there's so at least they have a place to go, a warming station, without having to get in a car, which most of them don't drive or can't drive, or it's unsafe for them to drive in the middle of a storm to go to a warming station. So we need to bring something to them. So anyway, we'll know by the next meeting whether or not our 5-page letter was accepted, but when it's final, I'll distribute it to the committee. But I would say keep a lookout for these types of opportunities, because they're all over the place and we can make it work. And we definitely are getting notice and commendations, commitments, compliments from leaders in town about what the work that we're doing and just how we're going at it, and the rational way we're going at it, but the effective way we're going at it, and the passionate way we're going at it. So I want to thank you again for being on this committee. I have asked for our empty seat to be filled. I am hopeful our empty seat will be filled. And then I am hopeful that we will be able to take a vote on reconfiguring leadership roles. So if there's somebody who would like to take the chair position, feel free, and I can take on a committee role.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
thank you, but
let's wait till we have a full, I know we've been waiting for a year, but let's wait till we have a full group on this one. And they'll just, we should do it as part of an annual discussion anyway. It's good committee hygiene. Okay.
good.
All right. Anything else? Okay, I apologize again for the late start. We are keeping within our 2-hour limit, so that's good. I feel like we're getting more effective. I did take some things off the list because I didn't think we had an update, but if there are updates, definitely let me know. And we are trying to figure out how to stop just the confusion around postings and why things aren't getting posted. And part of it is town staff changes, and part of it is town staff personal challenges, which we want to be respectful of. But at the same time, like second Thursdays of the month, people are blocking that out. And when that gets messed up, you don't want to be a fly inside the car when my husband's driving and I'm going off on that because it is not.
So apparently what we heard in Hull is the Attorney General's order is expiring July 15th. So unless the selectmen adopt some sort of variance for online meetings, everything's in person starting July 15th.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what we're hearing in Hull.
Either Tanya is in deep thought or she's frozen.
She fell out of her seat.
That put her over the edge,
Yeah.
I guess.
She's still thinking about it. Yeah. Yeah, she's really frozen,
She is in deep thought,
huh?
like comatose. Wonder if we can
Make a motion to end
adjourn.
tonight's meeting.
Can we? We don't have to have a motion even to adjourn, right? We just can adjourn.
I'd
We
say
gotta
she's
vote on it,
probably
right?
dialing right back in, but I mean, give it 1 minute, I guess. Let's see.
Are you can you let her in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting notified that anybody's waiting in the, I am the host now, but
Oh,
nobody's trying to get in. But yeah, we can adjourn, right? We want to,
yeah.
I think we covered everything anyway. We're about to adjourn.
All right.
Before
So
Mike threw that curveball in that just sent Tanya away.
that's too funny. But it is different. I mean, I've never had on my that it says panelists and attendees. I
Oh,
mean, it
they-
looks different. It's
They changed the settings and
yeah.
We need to go check that for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, this is different. Okay, so I'm gonna go watch the game.
Yeah, all right. So
All right.
second that.
All right. Good night,
All right, have a
everybody.
good night, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.